Hi, I'm David Edmonds of the BBC World Service, and this is The Big Idea. I found the most fascinating ideas around and the people who thought them up, and I'm going to do my best to explain them. My tube journey into work was delayed today. The bus journey takes over an hour, and tonight I'm trekking right across to the other side of town to see a friend. I love this place, London, my home, but it also infuriates me. If only there was a recipe for a well-functioning city. Well, Alex, everyone calls him Sandy Pentland, thinks there is. He's a number cruncher and the 21st century pioneer of something called social physics.
Well, social physics is actually quite old. Back when natural science was turning into physics and alchemy was turning into chemistry, there was this idea of being able to understand society using statistics and data. And the idea arose in France and in Britain, and in fact it's why we have a census and a national statistical office in most countries. But the problem has always been is that there's really not that much data. You have to do it with surveys and stuff, very expensive. For instance, most countries have a national census only once a decade or something like that. Today, however, we have data from everything, from credit cards, from cell phones, from transportation systems. And so we can actually sort of run a digital census daily if you want.
This is all part of what's now called big data, the data revolution. Huge quantities of facts and stats, almost free to gather. Mining all that data, electronic ticketing on bus, trains and taxis, mobile phone flows, credit card payments, we're able to take the pulse of a city. Putting all this data together doesn't tell you anything about a particular individual, but it does tell you about the city as an organism.
So you can look at a neighborhood and say, is this pattern of interaction typical of a healthy neighborhood or a neighborhood that's in a lot of problems? And you can ask things like, is this neighborhood something where the people know each other, where they interact? Or is this a neighborhood where everybody's sort of scared and at home for one reason or another? Does this neighborhood interact with the rest of society, or is it something of a ghetto?
We want to know how neighbourhoods interact, because people affect each other's behaviour in surprising ways. In one experiment, Sandy Pentland gave everyone in a university hall of residence a smartphone, and then, with their permission, tracked their activities.
We looked at what sorts of things influenced their voting behavior, what sort of things influenced their weight gain and health. And what we found in each case is that the social relationships were at least as powerful as anything else. And the funny thing is, it's not the ones that you're conscious of. It's your environment. So if we looked at the friends of a particular person, the ones they called friends, those weren't terribly predictive of your voting behavior or your weight gain. But the people you hung out with, which you didn't necessarily know, it's just the people that you shared space with, those were extremely predictive. So if you hang out in a place where everybody takes the third slice of pizza, you're likely to take the third slice of pizza. If you hang out in a place that's all very conservative, you're likely to become more conservative, whether you're aware of it or not.
Want to lose weight? Want to say no to that third slice of pizza with extra pepperoni? Then stay away from areas where obesity is common. Of course, the internet is creating echo chambers. Online, we tend to interact with people like us. The elites end up talking to the elites. That's one reason why they were so taken by surprise by the UK vote to leave the EU, Brexit, and the election of Donald Trump. But, says Pentland, the real echo chambers are not caused by social media.
The interesting thing, though, is it's the physical environment that still dominates. The online is not the major thing. It's who you actually physically hang out with. To that end, it's the fact that cities have become more and more polarized by wealth. The poor people live on the edge, the rich people live in the center. That is underlying a lot of this polarization.
In London, the centre of town has become unaffordable for many. Bad news for politics, which becomes more divided. The well-off lose touch with the problems and aspirations of those less fortunate. But bad news too for the economy. It means cities like London becoming less diverse will eventually suffer. The more diverse a city, the more people move around from one part to another, the wealthier that city is likely to be. According to Sandy Pentland, this seems to be something close to an urban law.
We have data from many parts of the world, from China, Southeast Asia, Africa, Europe, US. And in every case, what you find is the diversity of social relationships that a community has is extremely predictive of its wealth.
So how does that work? Why does segregation so often mean poverty? Why do areas that become socially cut off from other parts of town experience a spike in crime? Why does a well-connected city become richer?
Access to new ideas, new opportunities is what drives the long-term creation of wealth. It's called weak ties. And that's really what we're talking about, is if your neighborhood has very little access to what's going on in the rest of the world, how are you going to come up with new ways to make money or improve your lot? You have to invent it yourself, which is hard work.
So the claim is the central driver to the increase in wealth is ideas transmission. The fact that you're getting ideas from a mixture of different communities.
That's right.
Integration means innovation. Ghettos mean suffocation. A successful city will have an efficient transport network, allowing residents to move rapidly from one part of town to another. What about the perfect population size? Sandy Pentland suggests this is about 1.5 million, of which half might be adults. Suppose each person knows 150 people well. Then each person will be able to access around 22,000 people who are either friends or friends of friends. That's 150 times 150. And with one more hop, through these 22,000 people, there should be several ways of reaching every other adult in the city.
The places that are best governed, the places that have the highest rate of innovation, tend to be places where everybody knows somebody who knows somebody. There's not just one link. It's not like everybody knows each other, but they know how to get in touch with people. They can be introduced to people. Also, there's a higher level of trust because you won't do something nasty to somebody because they know people you know, and that wouldn't be seen very well. So there tends to be a little bit more good dealing between people up to a certain size.
The soundscape of a city. Can I have a decaf medium mocha with extra cream, please, to take away? Thank you. So here are the ingredients to making a city work. Fluid, open neighbourhoods with mixed social housing, connected by excellent transport links and filled with coffee shops, parks, gyms, restaurants, and other places in which you can bump into fellow citizens. That's the recipe for success. And it sounds like my kind of town. Thanks a lot for listening to The Big Idea from the BBC World Service with me, David Edmonds. The producer is Ben Cooper. If you like this episode, please create some more big data by leaving a rating or comment if your podcast provider allows you to. You can even let me know on social media about the big ideas you think I should be looking at. In episode 5, Unlocking Our Talents.